The year is 2017. Two 20-somethings, Georgia and Emma, team up to create a podcast. Have you tried yoga?
This is Have You Tried Yoga podcast. It's two Brisbane girls based with chronic pain, and my name is Georgia.
And my name is Emma. Hi.
So we'll probably give you a quick introduction of who we are and what we look like, just to make sure that you don't confuse our voices.
Because that has happened to me listening to My Favourite Murder.
And they're pretty cool individuals. So if they can be confused, like I think we could probably be confused.
Yep. Do you want to go first, Georgia?
Sure. Okay, so I'm blonde. And we both wear glasses, but mine are slightly less hipster and glorious. It's true though, mine are just black and yours are like speckled and beautiful.
No.
I don't know, what else is different about me? I have blue eyes.
Did you say you have blonde hair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Just like you need to double down on the fact that she has blonde hair.
Whereas like Emma's brunette as hell. And has wavier, thicker hair. It's very luscious.
You're already giving my description. I don't really need to give my description.
You...
I would just say I'm the real pale one with green eyes. Georgia has a bit more of like a healthy glow tan and is blonde. So that's how you can, if you look at our photos on our website, then you'll be able to tell who's talking, and you can kind of picture us. If you're a visual person, you can picture us and you know who's talking. Because, yeah, we've had trouble listening to podcasts and understanding who is who before. We know that can be important.
Another major difference is Emma can actually do winged eyeliner. I cannot.
Well, today's a special day recording our podcast. I was like, I'm going to wear all the things I like. I wore my new jacket. I put winged eyeliner on.
I like it. I painted my nails and then I ran them through my hair while they were still wet. So, you know, it's a metaphor for my life.
We've all been there though.
Yes, we have. I guess we could just kind of explain why we're here today and why we even started a podcast as well.
Yeah.
So
it's because we hate yoga?
No. No. This disclaimer, we do not hate yoga. Yoga is lovely for people that it suits. Unfortunately, it does not suit a lot of chronic pain people.
And it does not cure your pain.
What do you mean? How could it not cure it? It's fabulous. It's
didn't you know stretching cures everything?
Have you tried downward dog?
That's kind of what we're going to get into today, but our podcast generally is going to be us talking about our experiences with chronic pain and asking for other people's experiences, hopefully interviewing a few people, and kind of being very sarcastic and very jaded and bitter about living the pain life.
All the sass.
All the sass.
And just another disclaimer, this is obviously our own experiences and people who are close to us, so we can't represent everyone ever, and there'll be people who will listen to us who don't agree with us. That's fine. We don't mind. You know, you can flick us an email. We'll give out all of our social media details at the end. But let us know if we've done something that's actually quite un-au-fait or a bit offensive if we didn't mean to, because we want to improve and correct ourselves as we go along if we misrepresent something.
Yeah, especially if we're talking about a pain condition that's not our own.
Yes.
So why don't we chat about that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I have a genetic illness. It's collagen issues, so it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. You can Google it. No one knows what it is unless they've got family or they have it themselves, and it's very weird and it kind of affects everything because everything has collagen in it.
Just everything?
Yeah. So
the shorthand is EDS, isn't it?
Yeah, EDS.
I knew EDS before I knew how, and I still can't pronounce it properly.
That's okay. I'll just refer to it as EDS from here on out for simplification issues. So I get organ issues and like gyno problems and bowel problems, so I get all the abdominal pain. So that's actually how Emma and I kind of got involved, but we'll explain that a little bit later.
Involved sounds so serious.
It's very sexual, isn't it?
Very scandalous.
It's not.
She means being friends.
Yeah, she means befriending. I have joint problems. Actually, cute story. Tried to join a gym today. Which, you know, why? Well, because I think I'm fitter than I am and I want to get fitter again. And they want a medical waiver because I have all the problems, which is too real. But yeah, so I get joint dislocations as well. So all the fun things, really. Recently got a cardiac condition as well, but we're managing, and I go to uni and I work, and I'm actually a psychology student. So once again, if I say something to do with that degree that you don't agree with, just tell me, because obviously not all unis teach the same things or have the same ways of understanding something. I know that there's a lot of bias in teaching, so I may repeat something I've been taught and can be totally incorrect. Consumers, correct me. For the love of God, correct me. I want to know.
I'm just imagining that I'm probably gonna have to be like, Georgia, people might not understand what that word means. Like, I remember when we were discussing
Yes.
you wrote comorbid, and I was like, because I'm a teacher, I understand that word because I
Yeah.
work with kids with disabilities, but comorbid doesn't mean like shared death, like shared sadness. It means like coexisting conditions, basically.
Yeah.
So we might use words that we need to be like, the general public will not know that word.
So, Emma, what's so-called wrong with you? What makes you different?
So many things.
All of the things.
Yeah. So I'm a chronic pelvic pain sufferer, and within that, I just recently, it's like, oh gosh, here we go. Get ready for the list. Within that, I recently got diagnosed with probably what my starting point was, which was untreated interstitial cystitis, which is now being, the name has changed to the very unglamorous painful bladder syndrome.
Oh.
Interstitial cystitis still sounds a little bit alluring, so I'd much rather that.
Yep.
That was probably like the first thing that happened to me, along with period pain, but it never got treated. So then the
Isn't
other...
the story of like every young woman's life? You know, honey, it's normal to be in that much pain.
Yeah, especially period pain, right? So then all those organs started like chatting to each other and be like, oh, I'm in pain too. So now I have like interstitial cystitis, and then pelvic pain, vaginismus and vulvodynia. So vaginismus and vulvodynia are obviously to do with the vagina and the vulva, and to do with like nerve pain, like pain upon touch, and also like muscle spasms and things like that. So you can group that within just saying I have chronic pelvic pain, but those are sort of, they can be interconnected and they cannot be interconnected. All of those conditions can stand alone. I'm just fabulous and I have all of them.
But how good is nerve pain? It's my favourite.
Yeah.
Really resistant to all of the treatments ever.
Yeah, and a really annoying diagnosis to have, to just be like, oh, it's just the messages my brain is sending. How do you treat that? Like, okay, obviously there are lots of things you can do to treat it, but it's just the most wishy-washy diagnosis. So
Yes.
actually getting,
yeah.
sorry, all I was going to say is actually being diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, I walked out of the appointment and I called my mum and I was happy because I was like, after 5 years going, oh my gosh, something tangible. What is
Yeah.
this? So apart from pain, you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I can really relate to that sentiment. I got diagnosed when I was 19 with Ehlers-Danlos or EDS, and I walked out of the rheumatologist office, and I'm like, near the beach because that's where they were, and I'm just sitting on the edge of the water, waiting for my dad to come pick me up, and I just cried in happiness. She goes, you have this, there's nothing we can do to treat it, you just got to live with it and maintain it, and you're going to have it your whole life. But I was just so happy because my whole life I was always getting these weird things wrong with me, and I never knew why, and I just felt weird and broken, and being told that, you have a genetic illness that you didn't cause, you're just unlucky, it's just such a relief. Because there's a lot of self-blame and other blame, and the perception of society obviously doesn't help, but being able to say, I have this, I didn't make it myself, I just happen to be this kind of person. It's like having blonde hair, you just come that way, like...
Yeah. And isn't that kind of like telling and sad that like we both were like, you have an incurable illness, and we're like, yay, I'm so happy. Like, that's probably not the reaction that a lot of people have.
No, probably not, but
Yeah.
being type A, we're like, answer!
Yeah.
Anyway, who are you?
Oh, such an existential question. So, I'm Emma. I'm the one with green eyes and pale. I am a full-time special ed teacher, and I work in distance ed, which is kind of like online school, which is kind of cool. What else should I say about me? Oh, I have done some like writing and speeches and stuff about pelvic pain.
Sorry, I'm just like dancing in the background, being like, you're a dancer as well.
Oh yeah, I do dance, but that's sort of like, I'm not going to go and like dance for people. I suppose if I'm thinking myself as like a public figure, I'm not going to be like, I do tap dancing sometimes. I'm going to be like, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I do like writing non-fiction and fiction, And sort of for a long time I was like trying to figure out how I wanted to spread awareness, particularly about pelvic pain, because it's super duper common, especially with young people. Georgia, we should probably mention that we are young. I'm 24.
I didn't know you were 24.
Really?
No.
How old did you think I was?
I don't know.
How old did you think I was?
I don't know. I was like 20-ish somewhere. I don't know. I don't really bother guessing people's age because I'm really bad at it. I just turned 22, but I'm probably like 40 inside. I like to take naps and drink tea.
I think we've probably found our crowd if people are listening to our podcast on chronic pain.
Yeah.
We're probably in the naps and tea kind of community.
My favourite place is anywhere soft and warm, preferably with like some kind of heat pad or something. That's fun. It's nice.
But yeah, so we are younger, so we sort of can come at things from that perspective too, about the challenges of being a young person. But what I wanted to get at was why we sort of started this podcast and how we started it. Basically, I had come out of a procedure and I was still really loopy from the anesthetic, and I was still like falling asleep at random times. Like, it hit me harder than I did. I posted on Facebook being like, should I start a chronic pelvic pain or a general pain podcast? Will anyone do it with me? And then...
Well, me being me and putting my fingers and everything, I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it, because we met through... Emma had a little forum on Facebook about pelvic pain that I joined millions of years ago and never really met up, so to speak. But we went to the same university when Emma was still studying, and we kind of saw each other around.
Yeah, we knew each other.
Yeah, well, I used to be the disability officer at UQ, and there were some events that I helped run or did run, and Emma came along and helped out, which was awesome. So I was like, why not? Let's do a podcast. I mean, can't wait to embarrass myself in front of the general public. That's what I'm about. Yeah,
and then we got way too excited and we've managed to kind of pull everything together in about 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And kind of just like, we've just been messing each other gifs of actors being excited all week, just being like, ah!
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got all of our social media stuff like URL'd, I guess. What's the word? I don't know, named and like ready to be launched, but we're waiting for our artists to get back to us so it doesn't look too plebby, but I'm sure it'll be all there by the time we release this. Just like,
yeah, definitely.
Right now we're still kind of...
I'm still trying to think what's the other word for like URL-y. That's just stuck in my brain. We can say like we've snapped up everything so that you can find us on like all of the socials and stuff under Have You Tried Yoga podcast.
Yeah, so we have an Instagram. It's up and going as of now, so it'll probably have 1 billion things on it by the time we post this.
So you were going to say 1 billion followers, and I was like, oh hush, but no, you were correct. 1 billion things.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the sassy memes about, the misappropriation and misunderstanding of like, being young and in pain.
Yeah, exactly. So we thought we might start off by giving a bit of a definition of pain, not like a boring dictionary definition.
What do you mean?
But like so you can have a bit of an understanding of what generally pain is. Why did I just say the same thing like twice?
That's okay. We're just really communicative.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Communicative, yeah.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that one.
That's okay. I mean, I'm just saying sentences back and forth, so we're doing really well. Anyways, we thought we'd give a different...
definition of pain.
Yeah, we thought we'd give a definition of pain.
Emma decided to give that to me to do because I, being the pretentious, idiot I am, was like, oh, I've done a couple of classes at uni on like, behavioural medicine, which means basically the psychology of giving a damn about people who are sick. It's pretty much...
Like the psychology of people who are like nurses and doctors?
No, like, if you're a clinical psych, like obviously I'm not a clinical psych because I'm an undergrad, but it's like if you have a patient who's got pain, like how can you understand them? How can you appreciate their lives and, as well as other chronic illnesses like say diabetes or other things that I can't think of right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did an essay this year on geriatric depression.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was like my 4th year level essay on just pretty much, it's holistic care, so it's lifestyle. I hate the fact that people call it lifestyle illnesses, but anyway.
I was rolling my eyes at holistic. Sometimes you hear that word and you're just like, oh,
yeah.
holistic.
Yeah, this is holistic in the sense of like, you don't just go have some drugs and go home. It's like, okay, well, you're having trouble communicating with your partner. What can we do about that? You know, like being a supportive clinician / friend person kind of thing, like, you know, keeping it real. But yeah, so because I was like, oh, I can give a great definition, Emma was like, do it then. So here we go. I've typed up a little document just so I don't miss something. But what I really wanted to say was that chronic pain is actually a really growing problem in Australia, which is where Emma and I are from. We're in Brisbane, which
If you couldn't tell by our accents.
Yeah.
And the way we end everything in a sentence by going up.
Yes.
When we talk.
Yes, we do. Brisbane is in Queensland, which is where it's very, very hot.
That's at the top of Australia?
In case
sort of.
You're American or English or something. I don't know if you'll get that far, but hey, who knows? So according to Pain Australia, which is like an organisation that does advocacy work, apparently. I haven't ever had them advocate for me, but, you know.
Apparently they do advocacy work. No, I'm sure
they're
great.
going to contact us and be like, excuse me.
No, I'm sure they're really great.
I'm sure they're great. They had really good they had really good data, so I took it. So thank you, Pain Australia, for your data. Please don't sue me. 1 in 5 Australians apparently live with chronic pain, and that includes adolescents and children. So that's kind of scary. And it actually rises to 1 in 3 when you're over 65. Now, obviously, we can't speak about being over 65, but that kind of spooked me a little bit because 1 in 3 is very common. But now you know that it's a problem and that we're going to complain about it, we may as well tell you what it even means, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good.
I mean, all right, if you have to.
I guess I do. So I'm going to have to explain some basic founding concepts of pain. So in the past, medical professionals relied on something known as the biomedical model. Now, what does that even mean and why do you care? Well, it says that pain is from injury or harm. The more pain, the more damage. And it's actually from a French philosopher known as René Descartes. And it's over 450 years old.
Yay!
450 years old, and it's still being used. And it's highly problematic and inaccurate, but for many in the medical population and the general population, it seems like basic logic. You know, the more I heard a lot, I must be in a lot of strife or pain or harm. Makes sense. I mean, you know, we're only human, but...
Or this must be caused by something that...
Very scary.
Happened.
Yeah.
Like there must be something, you know...
really wrong.
Or like, I suppose I'm trying to say like physically, like, you know, like it's not a nervous system, nerve pain thing.
And I know for me, like that's how I perceived things, you know, like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain, I must be really broken somewhere. But
yeah, like it could be a bone thing or a muscle thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not always the case.
No, and the problem with this kind of idea is that pain is actually not that logical. It's affected by a nervous system, which Emma just brought up recently, like the nerves, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But it's also to do with our psychology and our social situation, which it's very contextual, basically, and the awareness of this context affecting pain led to the awareness and conceptualization of the biopsychosocial model. And that's the idea that pain is maintained by many factors. Not necessarily caused, but definitely maintained. So things like emotion can keep the pain happening, not cause it. That's a joke. But, you know, for me, I can think about how isolating being in pain was, and feeling, you know, very sad inside made the rest of my body even worse.
Mm-hmm. But not saying, obviously, that you're just in pain because you're sad, and if you were happy, you would be no longer in pain.
Absolutely not.
It's a broader idea than that.
Yeah, and social context is really important as a pain causation kind of thing, because if you're in a low SES group and you have a chronic pain condition...
What's SES?
SES means social economic status, so it means that you've got less income, or you live in a very isolated place, or there's other barriers that stop you from getting access to...
So like maybe like what we might usually call a lower class kind of living environment.
Yeah, which unfortunately is very prevalent in Australia, but I won't go into that. Being unable to afford healthcare or get to healthcare definitely is going to make your pain worse, especially when you feel very isolated and left behind by your country. But what really I want to hammer home, and Emma brought up, is pain can be kept going by an increased sensitivity of the nervous system. Now, what this means is that the messages between the brain and the body part or body area can get more trigger happy, I guess, or they can get in this like crazy circuit that they just ping back and forth really quickly. And for some people they can get an infection and then the infection can leave, but their body part still thinks it's sick, which is really, really sucky. So for me, they thought for a while that, I had some kind of infection in my tummy, and because of that, the body parts were like, no, we're still sick. Let's send all the brain signals saying that we're sick and sore.
I'm sorry, you didn't realise?
No.
You were sick with an infection. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And then your body was like, let's just keep going.
You're just really weak. Yeah. No, I had a doctor almost imply that, but that's another story. So this does not mean that the pain is not distressing or real. So nerve pain is very distressing. It's very, very real.
Tell me about it.
But it's not necessarily physical damage, which you'll see on the movies. Like, you see the very dramatic, like, arm gets cut off and they scream and they hold their stump. And the doctor goes, oh, that's what's wrong with you. We'll give you drugs and surgery and you'll be all better. Nerve pain is, something really abstract happened. We don't really understand. And now you're going to be in pain. And, maybe you could try all these things that probably won't work.
But is it the same kind of, logic or theory that phantom pains, when people do lose a limb, comes from?
Absolutely.
Because it's your brain controlling the pain center?
Pretty much exactly the same, to my knowledge. And it doesn't mean that it's not scary or painful. It's very scary and it's very painful and it's super isolating to me. I've seen it and felt it, but and it can lead to time off work, uni, school, family duties, and external to the pain itself is also the fatigue. I know that's a really common experience, especially for me. Like, it's a problem in its own right. Being in pain is very exhausting.
Yep.
The drugs you take to manage the pain can make you very sleepy.
Yeah, like I've been in really bad pain this week, but in order to function at work, I decided not to take my pain relief. So I'm just sitting there at work in being really bad pain just in order to function. It's kind of like,
it sucks.
Well, then what's the point of being prescribed them?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really stupid.
I'm on day-to-day stuff that reduces the nerve signals, so they're not as trigger happy and oh god, that makes you tired. But it's got me out of bed, so that's the thing.
And fatigue can be, like you were saying, it can just be like a side effect of being in pain in time, like the emotional fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, and then also it can be a symptom of a lot of pain issues,
Your
like
condition
fibromyalgia, for example.
And
sorry, just keep letting
no, it's good. This is conversational. It's what we want. But what I will say is that not all chronic pain is like this. There are a lot of conditions where real damage is actually happening and they get brushed off by medical professionals and their body is actually degenerating, and that's just a tragedy in itself. So a good example is rheumatoid arthritis. So it feels like what joint pain I have, apparently, but what's happening is the joints are kind of being destroyed. I mean, I can destroy my joints with my condition, but my condition itself doesn't do it. I can just do it by overextending myself, and it's different.
It's not going to happen, it could happen for you.
Yes, whereas it's absolutely going to happen with rheumatoid unless you get treatment.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is that a lot of chronic pain sufferers actually have a bit of both, of the harmful and the non-harmful pain. So,
Sorry, recapping that again, the harmful pain is where there has been injury.
Yes.
And the non-harmful pain is sort of like the nervous system pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like where you get a massive ouchie, but there's not something broken.
What happened? I got an ouchie.
I literally used to say that. I used to say that I had gremlins in my abdomen that had little knives.
Oh. I like it.
Because that was the only way I could explain it for
Yeah.
a bit. Because I was like kind of young and I was like, I have gremlins with knives. I had a doctor laugh at me when I told her that, but she was like, you know, whatever works, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's really important is that the pain that actually isn't causing so-called damage is actually quite damaging to your life quality. I reckon, for me especially. So just because your body
I would concur.
Just because your body isn't getting broken with the pain doesn't mean that you're not missing out on things or having to adjust your life majorly. And it's really hard to know the difference between when there's actually something wrong or your body is telling you that you're in pain. So for me, I can get pain and then it's actually nothing. Or just this year alone, actually, I got pain in my shoulder and I was like, oh, that's okay. I'll just do my little self-care methods to keep myself going. And then in the next 20 minutes, it dislocated and I had to pretty much rush back home. But my GP couldn't see me on that day, and for my condition, there's a very poor understanding, and my doctor and I made the call not to go to hospital and just wait out till I could see her. So here I am with my shoulder kind of almost dangling, and went to the chemist and got a shoulder brace so I didn't get physical damage. So there's an example of, ooh, it's not actually damage and then it is. So it's very hard to know.
And I can imagine the times where I've had a really bad pain attack or something has happened. You're so used to being in pain that sometimes you're just like, nah, I'll ride it out, when really you shouldn't.
Absolutely. Like, you know, I get pelvic pain, very different from Emma's, I imagine. And, you know, is this a bladder infection or is it just an episode? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Turns out it was actually a kidney infection. That was a fun day. But yeah, sometimes you got to kind of not think about the fact that you might be bugging your doctor for no reason and just go anyway, which is very expensive. And
I think
time.
you should bug your doctor.
Yes, you should. But
Hi, I'm here to annoy you.
yeah, pretty much. My doctor, I have on speed dial. Yeah, and it's really hard to know how to explain your pain. That's something I've spoken to a lot of people. Well, in my opinion, a lot for me as an introvert, extrovert. But the people I have spoken to who do have pain quite often are like, oh, I don't really know how to explain it. And I use words that aren't real and I say things that make no sense. And that's a fun challenge. And yeah, and for me, there was this time of adaptation. Like, you first get your pain and everyone's like, oh my goodness, acute pain. Something's wrong. What do we do? We're here for you. We'll help you. And then when it doesn't go away, because they're human, family and friends can actually struggle to support you. And that's no fault of their own. It's just hard to understand something you probably haven't ever done or been through. And obviously you get a bit of fatigue in compassion. And that's just part of being a human, I think. But on the other side, there's people who have pain that adjust so well because they're just so determined that people forget that they are struggling, and that sucks. You know, like, oh, what do you mean you can't walk from the car? You're fine, you know, you've always been fine. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not fine. I haven't been fine all week. But
And neither side of that scenario, neither side of that coin, whether you're low functioning or high functioning, it's not oppression Olympics. It's not saying, you know, that if you're high functioning, your pain is lesser or worse, or that it says something about your value as a human being or how well you are coping. Like, obviously you would like to be a higher functioning person, but as a higher functioning person, it comes with a lot of other stuff like anxiety.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's important to point out that
yeah,
that spectrum of functioning is not you know, I'm just thinking if there are people like listening to this podcast who are just like bedridden all day, like, and that's cool.
Yeah, and that's,
you do you.
and that's the other side of the coin. It's the people who we like to pretend don't exist as a society. In my opinion, you know, the people who can't adapt, who can't go back to their old lives, who can't just smile and get out of bed. You know, you're real people too, and you deserve just as much compassion and support. And it's such a damn shame we don't do it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm sure you battle your family and your family and your friends.
Look, your family twice because they're probably really nosy.
Yeah.
Your family, and your friends.
But yeah, chronic pain is like a complex and a demon, and the medical system is really struggling to look after it and fight it. You know, and it can be so invisible. And you know, we're both quite young women, and we know what it's like to be sitting in a room and have someone talk about disability and how, you know, all the bigoted comments ever, and you're sitting there thinking, I identified as someone who has a disability, and it's actually really hard to hear you say that, but they have no idea because you're not holding a mobility device, which is, you know.
Yeah. Or feeling like perhaps, I feel like there's two sides of the coin to this.
Absolutely.
Feeling like you don't deserve to be in that disability spectrum because you have an invisible illness. And then I think on the other side, I think a lot of people who do have some visible disabilities, this is probably getting very tangential, but I'm just thinking there are people who do have visible disabilities who then, you know, suffer secondary chronic pain, who then have the chronic pain that's invisible.
Absolutely.
You know, someone in a wheelchair, you know, for example, who uses a wheelchair, people might not assume they have chronic pain. Just assume, oh, whatever happened to you happened so long ago, you have no issues right now. So it's kind of like, basically, you can't win. Whether you have visible or invisible pain or disabilities.
There's nobody wins this. And if we have said something that makes you feel a bit unhappy, we totally don't mean to. What we're trying to say is there's a big spectrum of visibility and the way you live your life with pain, and nobody wins.
And there's a big spectrum of pain too.
Oh God, yeah. Like I know myself, my spectrum is huge. Some days I forget totally, and some days it's like I don't want to get out of bed. I can't get out of bed, and you know, that's fine. It's just the day-to-day living, like not much that can be done really to change that. And I think this podcast for me is all about awareness. And I know there's a lot of people in my life who might not enjoy hearing it, but I've got to do it, and I've got to say it, and I've got to be open because it's not going to go away. And I'm actually proud of who I am. Why should I hide it?
Exactly. And I think, you know, if people want to write in with their stories or maybe come on and be interviewed, if we get some kind of audience at all, it would be great for other people to have that opportunity kind of to share their story and have that kind of power in speaking about your illness.
Absolutely.
As someone who didn't for ages, and I just tell people all the time now, yes, you do become that person that's like, oh, hi, I have chronic pain, but you also don't have the stress of keeping it all to yourself too.
And you shouldn't have to keep it all inside. You know, like, I'd really love if our community could have pride. I know we have pride, but why can't we have more? Why can't we build this massive culture upon what we already have? Like, we're already online. We've already got forums. We're on Tumblr, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You know, we have a community, we have a culture. Let's encourage it and get more people involved and support more people. And I really want a call-in culture, not a call-out culture. So what that means is, instead of screaming and yelling and throwing things when people kind of say things that are very upsetting, while we have no responsibility for that, if you have the so-called spoons or the energy to explain to them maybe why they've said something that's really inappropriate, if we can get them involved and help them understand, it could help a lot, but there is no responsibility on us to do that. Emma and I have chosen ourselves to kind of be like, hey, let's talk about our problems, and if people kind of throw some insults at us, we can instead be like, hey, what you're saying isn't actually true, and this is why. So
yeah, so I guess instead of just going, how dare you, kind of going, excuse me, let me explain from my own personal experience what's been happening.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, call in and tell us the real deal about something we haven't gotten correct.
Yeah, exactly. We want to know what we got wrong.
And we can probably do that too for stuff about pain out there.
Oh God, yeah. Ma'am, excuse me, but I find your show a little bit invalidating, and here's why.
I don't think people will be mean like that.
No, I meant like about media that is not us.
Oh, right.
Like, Emma and I had a personal conversation last week about like some shows that we're like, oh my God, did they just put that in their script? How rude.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please correct us, and we will grow and learn and get more inclusive. I think for me it's important to note that I am not a minority outside of my health condition. So I really want to respect and understand other people's viewpoints. So just tell us.
Exactly.
Come on the show. Let us know you're interested. We'll interview you. We want to know your story.
Mm-hmm. And especially because those minority identities can often lead to further discrimination or isolation within trying to seek help for pain conditions. So I'm like Georgia. I'm white and a cisgendered female. I am queer, so I can talk about my experiences from that point. Not that I've had really many discriminatory, ooh, that's a new one, discriminatory experiences based on that when seeking help for my pain. It's mostly just people assume I'm straight, which, yes, is irritating, but when you go for a doctor's appointment, there's more irritating stuff happening. So, but, you know, like we said, there are minorities that, you know, if you fall into a minority group plus have a disability or a chronic pain condition, seeking help for that can be harder. People can assume more incorrect things about you.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we are inclusive of those people's experiences, and we are aware and acknowledge any experiences, any privilege that we might have had as well.
And we're both quite highly educated.
Oh, and also, you know, we're both, I would say, middle class.
Yes.
So that comes into it too,
Absolutely.
with private healthcare.
Yes.
So that definitely comes into it too.
Bless my father for keeping me on his health insurance. And we're both highly educated as well, which can definitely help you when you're trying to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just like snobbily like adjusting my glasses here. I'm highly educated.
I just know for me it's really helped because I can read medical journals and actually understand
Oh
them.
my gosh, you read medical journals? Why?
Because I'm a dog and I want to know all the things and the stuffs. And I have to read them for uni anyway, so...
Yep, well, you know, being able to read a medical form, a side effects sheet on a, you know, a prescription. On medication, that was the word I was looking for. Those are privileges that lots of people do not have.
No.
When it comes to education.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've heard some really sad stories about people who have the same condition I have who were disbelieved and told that they were liars because they look different from the doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's awful.
Yeah. Like a lot of people were called drug seekers. I've never been called a drug seeker.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because you're white, so it's like, oh, well, of course. No.
Of course, she's actually in pain. She has white skin.
Which is so ridiculous because you know how there's a big, especially a big codeine epidemic, being people misusing codeine and misusing, but becoming addicted because their pain is so bad.
Yeah.
And they need it, and then they get a drug addiction problem. And that is predominantly a white person's problem, at least in Australia.
Yeah.
So the idea that they're like, oh no, you want it for drugs, when in fact probably a lot of the white people that doctors prescribe codeine to can then develop a drug addiction. Like, the irony is high there. Oh, that's awful.
And a lot of people in our community who do have pain end up stuck in the addiction cycle with pain drugs is because the doctors refuse to treat it and go to the core of the problem, get them a diagnosis. They go, you know, oh, you'll feel better in 2 weeks, just take this, but they never feel better in 2 weeks. So that's all they've got to depend on is the codeine or, you know, whatever drug it is. And pain medication is important long term when it's managed, but it's not the only solution.
But what are some other solutions, and who tells you these solutions? Yay!
So you can find us on social media. We'll post all of our links in the description for this episode.
Basically just search Have You Tried Yoga podcast.
Yeah, and we're on Insta, Facebook, and we have a WordPress site.
Yes, and please don't forget to subscribe to us and rate us on iTunes.
And
That's where the real money is.
Tell all your spoony friends about us. That'd be good. That'd enjoy it. But Emma, have you tried yoga?
You know, I actually just signed up for a class. I was thinking of going.
No.
And guess what?
What?
I bought like 2 spaces in the class so you can come with me.
Are you messing with me?
Yeah, of course I am. This is our sarcastic ending.
I'm not sure if you were or not.
No.
Okay.
So let's go. Grab your Lorna Jane. And what else do people take to yoga?
Yoga blocks, yoga mats, lemon infused water.
Let's take our lemon infused water.
That'll fix everything.
All right. Bye.